So if a single customer or client makes up more than about 15% of your revenue, you are on dangerous ground. Losing clients, losing customers is part of business. But if that customer accounts for a significant part of your business, that can be a devastating loss. If a customer leaves, if they're a major customer, the fallout can shake up everything that you've built. But companies that prepare don't collapse when a single customer walks away. And the key thing is, if you can spot the warning signs for yourself early, you can build systems that protect your revenue and ensure that no single customer controls your future. In this video, I'll break down the priorities that you need to build a business model that's strong enough to handle losing even your best client. Diversifying before you're forced to is one of the easiest ways to reduce risk and proactively prevent from leaving the chance of living and dying to be in just someone else's hands. But building a stronger base of smaller customers is sometimes more demanding than it looks. That can take some critical, thoughtful work and consistent delivery. So if you want help with something like that, I've created a lot of resources for you at my website, christianmontine.com. These resources will walk you through exactly how to build a larger and more stable company. The link for my website is in the description below. All right, so I'm going to talk about two major points in this video. The first one is, what are warning signs or indicators that you're overly concentrated in some way? Now, I'm going to share just some of the common ones that you need to pay attention to. The second thing I want to talk about are some strategies that you can use to retain your customers for a longer period of time. Nothing's forever. No business relationship is forever. And so we're just looking for extending the length of time that you are able to do business with someone, and some tips around that. So here's some things around concentration. Concentration. I cannot tell you how common it is for business leaders, business owners to come to me and be super excited about landing a massive contract with somebody, or to secure a lot of business with a single client. And it is exciting, and it might be a life-changing amount of revenue that's coming in, but they often mistakenly interpret this as stability as opposed to the actual fragility that single customer or client represents. Now, I want to illustrate that for you. A rule of thumb that you should keep in mind is, if you ever have one customer that accounts for more than 15% of your business, you're in danger. Because if they walk away, or if they just go out of business themselves, maybe they love you forever, but they don't live for forever. Something happens. Maybe they get bought by someone who's got different priorities. Who knows? Eventually things happen, and if they account for more than 15% of your business, that's usually an impact beyond which most companies struggle to handle very well. Maybe you can survive losing 20% of your business, 30% of your business, but I've got clients right now that have 60% of their business or more with a single client. They can't survive that, or at least not in any kind of recognizable form to where they're at right now. It's dangerous. It feels good, but it's dangerous. So again, I would look at your client base, your customer base, whatever the word is that you use, and identify, is there a single source, is there a single buyer out there that accounts for more than 15%? The other side of that, or the other kind of going beyond that, if any three of your top customers or top buyers account for more than about 35%, or about a third of your business, if it's concentrated with three, this is also a risk. It's not as much of a risk as right here, but it's still a risk, because you're putting your future in the hands or decisions of three other companies. And any one or all three of them could walk for any reason, and this happens. Again, I can't tell you how many business leaders I've talked to who are just ecstatic that they've gotten this one or these three, and they're just these anchor clients, anchor customers. They're there just bringing in the money year over year, and it feels great. And then something happens. They decide to in-house the services. They shut down themselves. There's a scandal. They get bought out by someone with other priorities. They decide they don't like you. There's a change in leadership at the top, and they don't know who you are, and they don't care. Anything can happen. And so what I just want you to be aware of is, if you're ever at a point where somebody comes along and offers you a deal that's going to be higher than these numbers, I'm not saying don't take it. It's fantastic, but you need to hustle to figure out, how do you grow your company company so that you can balance out your portfolio, so to speak. The other strategy along with that, or aside from that, if you don't want to grow your company in that way, is to figure out that this additional business, to structure it into your business almost like a sub-business that's isolated, and you're not building any kind of dependencies in the rest of your business on it, so that you're there, you can make money off of it, and when it goes away, it has essentially no impact on the rest of the business. That's not always easy to do, but that's another strategy for managing it. If you recognize we've got one major client coming in, you just have to be careful about the tendency to become dependent and to lean on that client. And you have to think about all the ways this happens, right? So out of that 15% of business that's coming in, or 20 or 30 or 50 or whatever it is, a certain percentage of that's covering your overhead costs. And so now all of a sudden it's paying for a significant amount of your financial team or your admin team, or maybe it's offsetting some of your underperforming departments, et cetera, et cetera. Those things grow. So you just want to be careful of that. The other thing that you want to be careful of is if you have any one employee on your team who's responsible for more than 10% of your business. And so this often happens in smaller companies, but you want to begin thinking about this and figuring out, how do we diversify this? Maybe you switch that number around a little bit. Maybe you want to say 15 or 20%, but it's the same deal. If you have a scenario where one employee, I'm not talking about serving the customers. I'm talking about they're responsible for bringing in that business, because this employee, in many, it depends on the industry you're in, but in many industries, they can just go away, and then these customers no longer have their contact, and many, or maybe all of them, will just stop trying to connect with you. Or maybe they'll follow the employee to wherever they go. That frequently happens as well. And so you can set your own numbers around this. These are the rules of thumb numbers that I use, that I encourage you to be thinking about to protect yourself. So this is the concentration red flags that you should be paying attention to and evaluating that and developing your strategy for what you're going to do. And the primary strategy is diversification. Just like if you're investing in the market and you want to be diversified in various ways, you want to diversify who your customer portfolio is, your client portfolio, and you want to diversify who's producing your sales, so that, or your, whatever, however you bring in your work, whatever the words are that you use, you want to diversify that so that you have a stable base, more than one legs, more than two legs, ideally more than three legs on your stool is what we're talking about. Okay, now I want to talk about the second part, which is how do you hold on to a good client. The primary principle, right, because we're talking about, listeners might be coming from a retail perspective, might be coming from, like a lot of my clients, might be in construction or medical or health or engineering or professional services or something like that. There's so many different kinds of businesses out there, so there's lots of different specific scenarios. The overall principle that you want to remember is you always want to preserve the perception of value and increase your perceived value to your client or your customer. So the more that your customer feels or has the experience that buying from you or working with you or your company is valuable and becomes even more valuable to them for any reason, because they're getting more out of the deal, because they have a better experience with the deal, because you seem to have history with them and that seems to matter for any number of reasons. Whatever it is, you want to actively do things that increase the experience of receiving value from you. If they start to feel like they've tapped out all of the value, or your value is the same as anyone else's, that's when you begin to lose somebody. So that's the overarching perspective, is if somebody's working with you, they should feel like, I'm getting value out of this, and in fact the value keeps increasing. This becomes better the longer we do business together. So there's a number of approaches that you can take to doing this, they're not all directly tied to value, but there's a number of specific things to keep in mind along with this. One is build or protect the relationship with the buyer. And by buyer, this is a specific meaning right here. This is the person who has the economic ability, the financial ability to buy or purchase your product or services and make the decision, right? Some people get delegated a certain amount of budget to make a decision, but they can't really decide that much and they can't move that around that much, so they're limited in what they can do. There's somebody else. So for example, in my space, If somebody from HR, for example, gives me a call and they say, hey, we'd like to have somebody come in and do executive coaching with our team, I know that the HR person who's calling me almost certainly is not the buyer. They may be delegated a certain level of authority, but they're not going to be the buyer. And also, I want to come in and talk to whoever's going to hire me as a peer. And so I'll say, great, let me introduce me to the owner of the team or the owner of the company or the president of the company or whatever their title is. I'll talk to them. We'll figure it out from there. In my case, if they don't work with me, if they don't want to do that, then they don't engage me. I don't work with clients where I can't talk to the buyer. I have to initially build a relationship with the buyer. That's how I obtain my customers or my clients to start out with. And then I stay in relationship with that buyer, even if I'm not working with that same person. Let's say the CEO of a company hires me and they want me to work with one of their VPs, and I'm spending a lot of time with the VP. I still have to circle back to the buyer and keep that relationship with the buyer if I want to keep them as a client. Otherwise, the relationship goes stale and their mind goes to elsewhere because they no longer feel the value in quite the same way. The second part, and this is the second topic, and this is related, is don't assume institutional loyalty. So if you've been working with Acme Corps for years, for 10 years, and you've had a fantastic relationship and you love them and they seem to love you and it's great, and whoever's been buying from you at Acme Corps, let's say the president of the company is buying from you, and then she retires and the new guy comes in, that new guy may not know you, may not care about you at all. And so you can't assume that they will just naturally move their business over to you. They may have their own person that they like or their own company that they like, or they may not know and they may be willing to start out from scratch. They don't have the history with you. So you have to go actively build a new relationship with the buyer at that company, even if you've been working with them for years. I've had, in the past, I used to be involved with a different organization, and a new leader came in and said specifically, we don't know who you are. We only work with people we know. So I've been with this organization. I've worked with you guys longer than you've been with that organization. That meant nothing. And when the whole relationship was just done. That person was not interested. You cannot assume institutional loyalty. So 3, we use this term customer benefit. I don't know if that's the most graceful of terms, but I'm using this instead of customer service. Basic, decent customer service is how you keep an employee. Not an employee. That's how you keep a customer or a client. Just by treating them well, being attentive, taking care of them. That's the low bar that if you clear that, they don't think about, well, maybe I should go someplace else, right? You go to someplace, you go to a restaurant, you call to order your favorite widget, whatever the thing is, and you get treated badly, you think, well, maybe I'm going to call somebody else next time. That's just the low bar. What you're really trying to do is you're trying to improve the condition of your customer or client in some way. So any kind of business that you're in, let's say you sell books. Can I help this customer feel like they understand that genre of books better? Or if they come to me, I can get that special edition of that book that they've been looking for, or I can help them source a signed copy, or I can help them be sure that of those few copies of that favorite well-known author, they can make sure that I'll set one aside for them. You want to do things that are kind of that above and beyond that is a benefit to the customer. So if you're doing bigger scale things, if you're working in construction or medical, like as I say, a lot of my clients are, you want to think about what can we do that helps my patient, my client to actually improve their condition so they're better off. So in construction, I often recommend get to know who your buyers are and help them do a better job in terms of understanding even how they design their RFPs. A lot of them don't know the work as well as you do, and you can build a relationship where you're giving them information up front or early where they can understand, just technically, what are some of the things that they need to consider that they might not be aware of. Additionally, if you're working as a doctor, instead of just churning people through your practice, giving them their 15 minutes of time and billing them for that, how can you actually help them get to where they want to go? Maybe they want to return to sport. Maybe they want to be able to, play with the grandkids in an active way. How do I get them to where they really want to go as opposed to the minimum to kind of say I've provided my service? Even if you do that in the nicest of all ways. You want to think about how do I improve the customer? How do I bring benefit to the customer? It's that idea of delivering even more value to them so that when they come and meet you, you're thinking about that. Related to that, so you want to solve the next problem. Or, same thing, bring the next opportunity. My very first exit strategy client I acquired, and I didn't do this on purpose. I just did this because it just made sense to me. But it was a different company that provided a specific kind of service. It was an employer services company. I brought them a potential client, and it was when I was going to meet the owner of the company. I knew he wanted to exit. He wanted to talk to me about it or talk to me about something. And so when I came in, I said, hey, happy to sit down and talk about what you're looking for and what you need. I also wanted to let you know I've got somebody I'd like to introduce you to because I think they'd be a perfect client for you. I was introducing him, bringing him a new opportunity for his business. He hired me, and he said a lot of it had to do with the fact that I was thinking about him and thinking about their company, not just about the business that I wanted from the company. And it was genuine. I wasn't doing it as a trick or a game. I was doing it because I knew somebody who would benefit from working with them, and it was for real. So that's part of the thing, is a lot of the people who hire or work with us or buy our product, they've got a whole world of things going on, and they're either looking for opportunities or needing to solve problems. And if you're able to look down the road and help them solve the next problem or help them open the doors to the next opportunity, then you stay valuable to them. And so these are all ways that you can basically build and keep a relationship with the buyer, and you essentially serve your client. You try to keep bringing benefit to them, keep bringing things that are valuable to them, and then identify what's likely to be a problem or the opportunity that they don't yet see or they're not yet aware of or may not even have access to. How do I help address that and put that on their radar? And then that makes you more valuable. And I want to say one other point on this. Some of these are not even services that you or products that you sell. A lot of, and this, my business is maybe different than your business, but something that makes, well, actually, let's take it away from me. We have a sunroom in our house, and it has a very unique lighting fixture in it, which was installed 15 years ago or something. They don't make it anymore. It was pretty specialized at the time, super hard to replace. It's a ridiculously long story, but there was really only one kind of light fixture that was going to fit in that space. There's a lighting company in town that I had gone to a number of times, offered to just be like, if you can source me this fixture, I don't care what it costs. Like, there's only one thing that's going to fit. I just want to get it in there so that I can move on with my life and be done with fixing lights. And it was interesting, the amount of effort that they went through to help me out with that problem, none of which they ever ended up billing me for, has absolutely 100% put that company on the radar that for any future lighting needs that I have, because they were willing to help me solve problems, even when it wasn't to their immediate economic benefit, it has made me loyal to them as a customer, even though the solution they gave me ultimately ended up with me not buying from them. And that was a way that they actually framed it. And so the point being is they were able to generate loyalty from me. And at some point when I need to buy fixtures or any kind of specialty item, I won't even search. I'll just go straight to them because I know that they'll take care of me because they do these kinds of things. That's really the main points that I wanted to give. Make sure you're talking to the right person. You got a relationship with the right person. Make sure you're providing value. So in this video, I've shown you how to protect against concentration risk and how to spread revenue across more clients to help you avoid financial collapse. But protecting revenue is only the first step. The real opportunity is in multiplying the value of your business. In the next video, I'll show you how to double or more your company's value.